Welcome back to another episode of Wellbeing Wednesday with Matty Willz, of course, brought to you by the fine folks at MetroHealth, where each week we talk to a different healthcare representative about a variety of different things to just bring some insight and some good knowledge to all of our listeners and viewers out there. So without further ado, we'll bring in today's guest, none other than Susan Lee. And there she is. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. So first, thank you for taking some time out of your day to kind of join us and talk with us about a very specific topic, and one that I admit, which isn't new news, but I haven't had much of a background in. So hopefully you can shed some light on that. But before we get started, can you just kind of tell everybody your title, what your role is with MetroHealth?
Absolutely. I am a licensed independent social worker in the state of Ohio. I've been in the field of social work almost 30 years now. My primary field has been in the field of sexual abuse. I first started in Indiana and then relocated to North Carolina, and now I'm in Ohio. Been with MetroHealth since early 2020 and currently working with the specialization of trauma.
Got it. So well-versed in everything over there at Metro, like everybody is that we speak with from MetroHealth. So we'll just kind of dive right in. So today we're talking about EMDR. So Susan Lee, if you can tell everybody exactly what that is first, and then we can kind of dive into these questions.
Sure. So EMDR, it stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing. And it's really a therapy technique that involves bilateral stimulation, which is just a fancy way of saying it's one side of the body and then the other, or the thinking and feeling sides of our brain. And it was developed back in 1987, so it's been around for quite some time. And we have since, or the researchers have since learned that there are multiple ways to connect the two sides of the body. So again, developed with eye movement would be looking from the right, looking to the left by following some finger movements. So we've also learned that tapping is just as effective, and that can be done by yourself with the guidance of a therapist, or the therapist can do the tapping themselves. We've also learned that there's a TheraTappers that are used. And so instead of any connection physically, they can hold some tappers in the palms of their hand. Those are the three techniques that I use. There's also the bilateral can be used auditorily as well. And then there's something called a light box, which just simulates the eye movement as well. So it originally developed for the reduction of trauma. And again, researchers have since discovered that it also is helpful with the reduction of anxiety, depression, can aid in performance enhancement as well.
Thank you so much for that. So if you can kind of expound, like you mentioned it at the end, that it does help with trauma. So how does it help treat trauma, and then also how does it help treat PTSD?
Right. So it helps people process the trauma by connecting the thoughts and the feelings. So a lot of times people have a belief system that they recognize intellectually is true. So the trauma isn't my fault, but they don't really believe that the trauma isn't their fault. And so the bilateral stimulation kind of helps those two parts talk a little bit better, so that the belief that's intellectual becomes the belief that they feel. Wow. So the bilateral, again, helps those two parts talk so that they're more balanced and more in line with what is actually true, which is trauma isn't the victim's fault.
Wow, I find that incredibly interesting, because we can all tell ourselves one thing, but how we feel and how our body reacts and processes certain things may not be in line with that.
Absolutely correct. And a lot of people don't even have that mind-body connection. They want so badly for that belief to be accurate. They have a lack of awareness regarding how their body is responding to an inaccurate or an unhealthy statement. So some of the things we get to do also is help that mind-body connection improve.
All right. That's amazing what the human body can do, especially under the right guidance and tutelage. So what is racial trauma?
Yeah, interesting. The language racial trauma, or race-based traumatic stress, was developed first or coined first by Robert T. Carter in a 2007 paper that he wrote. So he is credited with that language. But basically, it is really any person of color who is faced with, whether it's directly or indirectly, racism, discrimination, microaggressions on a repeated basis or a frequent basis. And those experiences result in trauma.
So when you say that, it kind of just reminds me of a few years ago. Obviously, this has been prevalent in our society and our culture forever. But a few years ago, when it was really a lot of that was just seen on social media and things that was just kind of happening around the country. So I wonder, just as we're talking, how many people may have been affected just by scrolling through their social channels. Because you mentioned that whether it happens to you directly or indirectly, that would be an indirect manner of that, right?
Absolutely correct. Anything we're seeing on TV, anything on our phone, hearing about it from somebody else, even that would be an indirect exposure to it. And because we are inundated with technology, it's all around us. Absolutely correct.
Wow. All right. So we'll close with this one. Why should people choose to receive EMDR therapy at MetroHealth?
Mm-hmm. Well, MetroHealth believes in the ability to access good quality health care, regardless of their race, gender, sexual identity, ability to pay. We're all inclusive.
We love MetroHealth for that and so many other reasons. So she's Susan Lee. She's the expert. To make an appointment with a primary care provider for a referral, please call 216-696-3876 or sign into MyChart. Also call and schedule a mental health assessment and you'll be assigned a therapist. Telehealth and in-person are both available. So Susan Lee, thank you so much for all of this really, really good information. I'm always happy when I have an episode or a guest on that I'm excited to share with my mom, who's been fighting these kinds of battles in her own profession for many, many years. So I know she'll be excited to see this. And of course, everyone else that's watching and listening right now, I hope you and I encourage you to share this with people that are close to you, people that you think need this information. So it's always going to be there because it's on the internet. So everything that I pointed out in terms of our call to action will be down in our caption notes below. Ms. Susan Lee, did you have anything else that you wanted to add before we get out of here?
No, other than thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Hopefully we can talk again real soon. So this was another episode of Wellbeing Wednesday with Matty Willz, brought to you by MetroHealth. We'll see you guys soon.